Welcome. Thank you all for coming today for our presentation of Senate Bill 777. I like to think of this as the Lucky Sevens bill, and I'm so glad that Congress passed the ABLE Act last year. It will allow for the first time individuals with disabilities and their families to save for their future. We all know that saving for our future is a smart investment strategy. It's a good way to plan for our future, but unfortunately for too long, people with disabilities haven't had this available to them. That's because in order to access their disability services, they can never have more than $2,000 of assets at one time. Since introducing this bill, I've heard from adults and parents of children all across the state telling their stories of why this is important. And I just wanted to share a couple of them with you quickly. This is Corinne from Lake Oswego, and she says, unlike with my other adult children, I've had to restrain myself from encouraging our son with disabilities to save, since saving any money from his Social Security benefits would endanger him losing it entirely. How absurd that is, since he needs to learn to manage money. Yet saving anything beyond the decades-old limit of $2,000 would harm him in the long run. Our son needs a medication that is not covered by the Oregon Health Plan, despite our appeals. Not getting the medication could have devastating results, including the loss of vision. The medication is so costly that we are forced to buy it from Canada at about 1/3 of what it would cost at pharmacies such as Costco. In order to purchase the medication, as his representative payee, I must carefully save his money so that we can get the best possible rate by buying it quarterly. That cautious purchasing technique, however, in order to save money, means that I must carefully avoid letting his benefits accumulate so as to not risk hitting that $2,000 mark, which would cause him to lose his benefits. We have another that says that being able to save would allow her child to be able to do first and last month's rent to live independently in their own home and learn to put money aside every month. And another that talks about they purchased a townhome for her daughter, but the property tax on her townhouse is over $2,000, but she is not allowed to save up that much, as having over $2,000 in assets would make her no longer qualified for her various benefits. Having a special needs trust helps for many things, but cannot be used to pay for food, lodging, or clothing. We have checked into this, and it means that essentially a special needs trust cannot pay for property tax. Letters like this came from all over the state, and we have someone here today, Ross Ryan, who's going to talk to us about why this is important to him. And Ross has asked me to support him by asking him questions so that he is able to answer them. So you get up to the microphone, because it's your voice that matters. And Representative Hayden, join us up here. I didn't see you. I'm so sorry. All right. Ross, why is it important for you to live and work as a member of your community?
To live out in the community so we can have our own house, and then we can do what we want to do, and so we can also save money for what we want, for what we think is what we want to do.
Are communities stronger when all people can save for their futures?
Yes, because if we cannot save money, we cannot work towards our dreams and the goals, and then you can't get nothing out of life.
But right now you work, and when you work, are you able to save any of the money you earn to supplement your disability benefits?
No, because we cannot save $2,000, and if we, then I usually have to spend down. And spending down kind of creates other problems. So there's this new bill where that I save the money for the things that we want to do and progress.
So Ross, if you could save money in an ABLE account and still keep your benefits, what kinds of things would you choose to save for?
It'd be for a car with a driver, and to go to meteorology college, and buy a house that will call my own.
Great. And you mentioned buying a car. Why is public transportation not working for you?
Because I live in Mount Angel. It would take 23 minutes, and then the buses only go to the Transit Mall. or I would have to stay the city bus and then walk to my meeting destinations or any other jobs.
Great. Thank you, Russ, for anything else you want to say about the ABLE Act?
There is a few others that I forgot to mention. The college, so we can be more educated. And the housing is the things that we kind of believe in. And thank you for listening. And hopefully the bill will be passed so we can save our money like everybody else. And thank you.
Thank you, Russ. And next we have Joey Rosano, who will talk about this from a parent's perspective.
Thank you, Senator Gelser, for listening to the needs of Oregonians with disability and working to make the ABLE Act accounts a reality with Senate Bill 777. My name is Joey Rosano, and this is my daughter Jade, who experiences Rett syndrome. Jade has a brother and sister and 2 working parents. Initially, we thought that Jade would catch up because she was born also 12 weeks prematurely, and so we set up a 529 account for her, just like her brother and sister. We thought she'd have a similar future, but part of that future would include college and hanging out with her friends. But then she started showing developmental delays around age 2. And she was eventually diagnosed with Rett syndrome, which is like having a child with autism, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, and an anxiety disorder all in one. So clearly she has a lot of challenges for her life. This means she's going to have a different path than her siblings. We're prepared to do that, but we consulted a lawyer that says, how does that affect her future? What does that look like? And they said, well, you have to set up a special needs trust, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and then there's going to have to be someone to, you're going to have to put paperwork. It's very complex. It really wasn't an option for our family. So he did, however, and many of the other families as well, advise us that we should write her out of our will and that we should tell all her friends and family, please do not leave her anything, don't leave her any money, because then when she turns 18, and heaven forbid something should happen to me or my husband and we can't care for her, then she will be disqualified for any federal benefits. I have to tell you, sitting in a lawyer's office, writing my daughter out of my will was one of the most difficult days of my life. It felt unfair. It felt, as a parent, it's my responsibility to take care of my children and provide a bright future for them, and I was doing exactly the opposite by writing her out of my will. I felt punished for having a child with a disability, and I felt it was very unfair that I could save for her brother and her sister, but not for her. This ABLE Act, it's a game changer. Families won't have to make those hard decisions like we did. Even I can change my mind. I can change her will now and save for her before she turns 18. Instead, we can have ABLE accounts that support children with disabilities. She can go to school, she can get a job, she can arrange for transportation needs. Wheelchair vans are very expensive, and she can get real housing. Who wants to live at home with mom all her life? These are things that she needs, that people like her need to be members, real members of their community. She wants to grow up and live in her own apartment, just like her friends and her siblings. We think this is a milestone in any person's life. It's how you discover what your own voice is and how you build your community and support system. She wants that too. She's got a pretty strong opinion. And now with the passage of the ABLE Act, we can help her get there. It will allow us to save for a condo or an apartment, so when she moves out, she can have personal care staff with her and her own place where she can set her own schedule, build her own life, and friendships. With the ABLE Act, we can help Jade save for important real-life expenses that she can have, so she can have the life that she wants and deserves. If there's one thing I know about Jade, she may not have an actual voice, but she should have a choice. The ABLE Act and Senate Bill 777 will truly improve the lives of Oregonians with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. And next we have Michael Parker from the 529 Savings Network. And I just want to thank Michael for all of his work getting this bill ready to go. He's been a great partner in this process.
Thank you so much, Senator Gelser. Again, Michael Parker with the Oregon 529 College Savings Network. the previous speaker made one very important comment. This is a game changer. As many of you probably know, 529 plans have been around for about 15 to 16 years in the state of Oregon here. Since we launched our first 529 college savings plan back in January of 2001, we've accumulated $2.3 billion in our plans. So parents really have seen the need and have embraced college savings plans here in Oregon to a large degree. We see the ABLE Act as a natural extension to college savings plans. It's a perfect place to, with our office and our network, a perfect place to park the ABLE Act because we know how to develop it, we'll know how to manage it, and we'll know how to keep things on track. So we're hoping Senate Bill 777 certainly gets a smooth ride through the legislature. We're here to support everything that these folks behind you want to do. We want to make sure that every Oregonian, not just the normal developing children, but every Oregonian has a chance to save for their future. That really is our goal. On a personal note, this bill means a lot to me. My daughter is autistic. So, you know, I not only will I be someone that's going to administer the plan, I'll likely be an investor in this plan as well, just like I am for my other daughter in the college savings plan. So I stand before you today with kind of both hats, but very proud that Senator Gelser has brought this to such a high attention here in the state, and we're hoping that this gets passed very quickly and we can launch the plan as fast as possible. So thank you for that. And next I'd like to introduce Helene Siegfried, who is a parent of an autistic child as well.
Hi, I'm Helene Siegfried. Thank you, Senator Gelser. I am a mother of 3 disabled children. I have Candace, who is 32 years old and a paraplegic, Nicholas, who is 24 years old and a triplegic, which means 3 limbs are injured, and Paul, who is 18 and on the autism spectrum. I'm also a grandmother to Annabelle and Julius, who are typical. I have just retired from 34 years of being a teacher and a principal, and I retired in June of 2014. I have been a widow for 15 years as of April 8th, so my life has been raising my children and putting my children first. I was a principal when my husband died. I went back to teaching so that I would have more time with my children and help them to get the therapies and care they need to be the best that they can be. And I'm here mostly to talk about Paul, but I want to let you know about my paraplegic transgender daughter and everything that she's been through, as well as my triplegic son, Nicholas. So for Candace's life to get her to where she is now at age 32, she's had occupational therapy, physical therapy, numerous surgeries. While living at home, we had a nanny and a full-time caregiver who was our nanny living at home with us. She's worked with a child psychiatrist. She needed a tutor through high school. She's needed massage therapy for pain, a personal exercise trainer to try to strengthen the other parts of her body, therapeutic swimming lessons so that she can swim, and she had a disability driving instructor and ongoing counseling from the age of 12 to present. Currently, Candace is working. She's going to school at the college level. She has lots of friends, and she drives her own van and is living independently. Nicholas is my middle son. He was injured at age 2. Candace was injured at age 10 in an automobile accident with a drunk driver. I forgot to explain that part. Nicholas has had occupational therapy, physical therapy, surgeries, worked with a behavioral pediatrician, a psychiatrist, speech and language therapy, therapeutic horseback riding, massage therapy, therapeutic swimming lessons, also disability driving instructor, personal exercise trainer, and while living at home, we had our nanny caregiver. And he has also had ongoing counseling from age 6 to present. Currently, Nick has worked in the past, and he is going to school at the college level. He is living independently. He drives and is a stay-at-home dad with plans to marry in the fall. And now Paul, he's our little firecracker, but he's the biggest of the 3. Paul is on the autism spectrum. He is now 18 years old. In his life, Paul has had speech and language therapy from ages 3 to 12. Insurance coverage, though, ended when Paul was 7, so I needed to pay out of pocket full coverage from ages 7 to 12. Preschool, I needed to pay to have a one-on-one parent helper so that he could continue with the program at ages 3 and 4 because he had such trouble settling in. We worked with a behavioral pediatrician followed by a child psychiatrist for counseling and medication monitoring, age 3 to present age. He had sensory integration therapy and occupational therapy from ages 5 to 12. Also, insurance coverage ended at age 7 because he should be cured. Paul has autism. He's had therapeutic horseback riding, again works with a personal exercise trainer, massage therapy for anxiety, therapeutic swimming lessons, tutoring, and he goes to the Kiwanis camp in the summer. We had our nanny and caregiver from Paul's birth until last June when I retired. Paul is currently graduating from Sunset High School with a modified diploma and will attend the Community Transition Program until age 21. He does not want to drive because he knows he would have trouble staying focused. He will stay home alone up to 2 hours a day during the day with our 110-pound chocolate lab named Buddy, who we've raised to be Paul's buddy, but he will never stay alone, and he will never stay alone at night. How Senate Bill 777 would help my family and many others like mine. Occupational therapy only covered for 2 years out of 7. Sensory integration therapy only covered 2 years out of 7. Therapeutic horseback riding, no coverage. Support for preschool, no coverage. Massage therapy, no coverage. Therapeutic swimming lessons for all 3, no coverage. Disability driving instructor, no coverage. Tutoring, no coverage. Kiwanis camp, no coverage. Our nanny and caregiver, no coverage. So I paid as an employer, I paid employer tax and Social Security for 21 years to keep her in our home so my kids could have a consistent adult in the home with my husband having passed. And doctors, pharmacy, medical supplies all have co-pays. And medical insurance was not available to my disabled adult children until President Obama's health care plan became law due to their pre-existing medical conditions. And so I was not able to retire until June of 2014 when the Obama health care plan went in. Parents like me worry and feel stress trying to cover the extra expenses for our disabled children. But we live in fear as to what will happen to our adult disabled children when we can no longer take care of them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And next we have Representative Hayden, who is our champion on the House side and a wonderful addition to the legislature. Welcome.
I'd like to thank Senator Gelser for bringing this bill, Senate Bill 777. I originally was tracking this bill as it went through Congress. It took about 8 years to get through Congress. My name is Cedric Hayden. I'm a state representative from District 7. I also serve as the House Health Care Committee as the vice chair. In addition to being in that position to help support this bill, I'm also a parent of a Williams syndrome daughter. That's a special needs category, and it's something that this bill is very important to my wife and I. And so I want to make sure that I can do everything in my ability and my position that we in Oregon don't wait another 8 or 9 years for this bill to pass. I'm going to support this for the families with unique challenges with disabilities, and so that they can face the financial and the time constraint challenges that this takes. So I just, again, really appreciate Senator Gelser bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we are able to pass Senate Bill 777, we will be the second state in the country to establish a state able act and state able accounts. Virginia signed their bill last week. The reason that's important is that even though Congress enacted the ABLE Act, Individuals with disabilities and their families cannot save unless their states enact a legislation allowing them to do so. If Senate Bill 777 does not become law, Joey will still have to write Jade out of her will. Representative Hayden won't be able to establish a savings account for his child's future. My son will not be able to save the money that he earns when he's working out in the community. And more families like Helene's will struggle to figure out how they will support their children in adulthood. Savings is a smart strategy for everyone. For too long, people with disabilities have been locked out of that, and that's part of why people with disabilities are locked into poverty. Fortunately, this session with the ABLE Act, Senate Bill 777, we have the opportunity to change that. We have a hearing today at 3 o'clock in the House Human Services and Early Childhood Committee, and I look forward to seeing the bill move forward. And we're all happy to answer any questions that you might have, and when you leave, Nikki Fisher has some fact sheets for you that tell you more about the details of how the law works, who's eligible, and what the limitations on the bill are. Are there any questions?
Representative Hayden, how do you see this as a bipartisan issue that the legislature should get behind?
I guess I would answer that with saying, how could I see it as not a bipartisan issue? People with disabilities come from all walks of life. I don't think that a partisan or a political leaning has any difference in this bill at all. Oh, sorry. Didn't choreograph that very well.
No, that was funny. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for, oh, did you have, you had that question look.
What are the limitations on this, the sideboards, to make sure that it's, you know, what going to the people that it needs to go, and that it'll be spent, you know, towards a savings type plan?
So the only place that you can make this savings account is in a 529 account that's established through this bill, through the 529 Savings Network. To be eligible to establish one of these plans, it has to be an individual with a disability whose disability manifested before the age of 26. There are limitations on how much can be invested in the account. Each individual can have just one account, and you can only invest in that account as much as the federal gift limits, which right now is about $14,000 a year. Assets can be accumulated up to $100,000. Once those assets hit $100,000, you do start to lose benefits. But the key here is that you won't lose your Medicaid benefits. In Oregon, this is really essential because that's where employment training services come from. That's where support services and in-home care services come from. And even with savings, that does not impact your daily fluid income that you have, your cash flow in your household. The money can only be used for specific purposes. It has to be for the benefit of a disabled person, for education, housing, transportation, employment training and support, assistive technology and personal support services, health, prevention and wellness, financial management and administrative services, legal fees, so that would be guardianships and conservatorships. That's a couple $100s every year for families to maintain that after they spend thousands of dollars to establish those when children turn 18 and become adults. And that's a real problem that we have in the state right now. Some families can't afford to do that, which puts their adult children with disabilities at risk because some physicians won't perform life-saving treatments if they do not believe the individual can provide informed consent. So this will help with that problem. This also allows more expenditures than a special needs account. There are special needs trusts, but within a special needs trust, you can't use those expenses for housing or medical care, and that is where a lot of these expenses come from. Any other questions? And did I miss anything, Michael? You're there. Great. Thank you all very much. Nikki has the fact sheets that goes through all of those pieces. And thank you all for making time to come and do this today. We'll see you all at the hearing.